Hello, and you're very welcome along to episode 393 of Treaty Talk. It is Tom Clancy and Matt O'Callaghan to discuss all things Gaelic games in Limerick. We'll have a bit of hurling, a bit of Masters football, and a bit of ladies football and Camogie later in the piece. But we will start this week with senior football. And before we bring in our guest, it is a good time for me to let you know streamed games this weekend through our sister partners Stream Sport. We'll see 3 games. One is Wednesday evening, so maybe by the time you've listen to this, it has already been played, but that's Kilmallock versus Dare in the minor Premier Hurling Championship semi-final. On Thursday, Monaleen will face Napier in the second of those semi-finals, and then a Crunch Limerick Senior Football Championship group game on Friday evening from 6:30 p.m. with Mungret St. Paul's facing off against Kildimo Pallaskenry. So that will help decide potentially some of the outcomings in Group 2 of the Senior Football Championship. So we will now bring in Billy Lee, our guest, to discuss some of the ongoings in Limerick Senior Football Championship. Billy, how's it with you? How are you?
All good, Tom. How are you, Matt?
I'm good, Billy. Welcome back to Treaty Talk. Good to have you back.
Yeah, and thanks very much for having me. Delighted to be on and contributing. It's always a great show to listen to, and thanks very much.
Right, great to have you, Billy. Yeah. And obviously, people will know you from your time as Limerick Senior Football Manager, and you've been involved in numerous other teams down the years. So you're taking a bit of a backseat. I think you were telling me there, you putting the feet up a slight bit more these days.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll leave it to the young bucks now. No, it was grand. I was involved with the minors this year with Garrett as manager, and Winners Kevin, Paul Landigan, Owen Ryan, Anna Sullivan. It was great. Niall McDermott. So it was great to, be there helping out and contributing in some small form. Rest assured there was some small form on my part. And but it was great, and helping out the next generation and trying to impart a bit of experience and knowledge to them, that might stand them in the state for their own careers, So I enjoyed that, and the pressure was always on Garrett and as manager, so I could take the back seat,
Very good. Just a quick one on that minor team. They're a bit unlucky. I was out in Mount Collins the evening, missed the late opportunity, unfortunately, to win that game. But very against what was it proved to be a strong enough Clare team, So green shoots there, albeit the results maybe didn't transpire.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd there's a couple of lads there now. The minors are 17, so we can't get too far ahead of us as we don't know where they'll go as they go into college and their lives start to develop and expand. But we had a first midfield platform. Young Murphy from Mesquite and Ballysteen, Kilcorner, what a character this guy is, quite unassuming. He tried it up along and he was dropped off the panel, and, his parents had the foresight to, ask us what he needed to do to develop, and he went away and worked at that, and he was trialing his corner back when he first came in. I know he just dominated the airways. It was just, and it's great to people to hear these stories that even though you don't make it 14, 15, possibly 16, you can go on. I'll give you another story about young Sam Mitchell on the Limerick minor hurling team. And he came in. He was dropped off the start of the year on the under 16 hurling panel, I think it was, and he tried for the football in at that stage. You know, this guy was wanting to go places. Now, if he was dropped off the under 16, he had to be 30 or 40. They probably had 40 odd players involved. He had to be down the list anyway, down in the 40s and 50s. And he was on the minor team, cornerback, and was outstanding in the championship for the hurlers this year. So, it's not lost, I suppose, is what I'd be saying to young kids, that, it is a big drop, a big disappointment to them and their parents if they're clubs, possibly if they're dropped off at a certain moment in time. But if they have an open mind and they work at it, and there are 2 stories I'd always tell. And I never had a conversation with young Mitchell, but he caught my eye in the trials, and we got to hear what his story was then. And, this fella was driven to, be the best he could be at whatever level he was going to attain. And remarkable achievement from to go where he was, dropped off at 16 to on the cornerback in 17. Hats off to him. And I'm sure there's other stories like that I wouldn't be aware of. But there are 2 stories I can tell you. We had young McAuliffe as well, Jamie McAuliffe in midfield, powerful build as well, and very athletic. So back to the match at Mount Collins. We left it behind us in the first half. We didn't play really well. Beat Tipperary the first day in over in Latin. And a bad day, and the lads were really excited after that, and maybe caught him at the start. We got after them at half time, and they came out and dominated in the second half, and we were unfortunate not to. But it was a magnificent game that day above Mount Collins, and a dry sod and dry evening. Then we went down to play Waterford, and I can tell you what a sight. I've never in my life seen a bigger team than the Waterford Miners. I mean, the middle of the field was 6'7", right? His brother plays full forward for the Waterford Hurlers, and his other brother plays the under 20 hurlers with Waterford. And there was an awful lot of them fellas not shot off his up to his mouth. They were 6'3", 6'4". I was talking to friends of mine who were of the Kerry minor team, and they couldn't get over this either. Like, they never saw a team like it, because they were saying that even as they were bringing off the bench were as good as what they had on the bench. So it's height wise, the well coached team, you know, and fair play to them. You know, they've been going well. They beat Clare above in
Indeed.
they did above
Kilmurray, I think.
yeah, Kilmurray, and they beat us. So you know, they but they were a huge team, and for at 17, that was quite difficult. Turning the ball winning. The names escape me now, but I think there was one fella that complimented the midfielder of 6'7", and he was the key man. I think he was centre forward anyway. But look, I'd hope that there'd be at least 5 or 6 of the minors that we had to go through. I just think young Charlie McCarthy, you know, his nephew, he was the main shooting man. You know, if he continues to work at his game, he you know, you'd have hopes for a lot of them. Like, you know, there was young Monan from Bruff. And there was others. I'd be wrong, you know, just making, you know, there's a couple of them more there, like that real capability. And so look, hopefully they'll continue the game. You know, when they go to the academy, you just don't know what happens if they play other sports as well, obviously, and you know how they'll develop and grow. But yeah, it was a pleasure working with them. They're a great bunch, and I certainly enjoyed it for the 4 years with them.
Billy, what was the thinking behind dropping the Darrell Darcy Cup?
Enlighten me.
Which used to be the final of Group 2 of Phase 1, you know, between the top 2 teams.
I don't know, Matt. Yeah, I don't know. Am I right to think that John Ryan won that 2 years ago? It was only 2 years ago that was in place. Below Mallow.
2023.
Yeah. So 2 years ago. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Because like they retained the John Cairns Cup, like, which is only, you know, for the want of a better word, you know, it's only acknowledging failure because there's the 2 bottom teams. Like.
Yeah, I can get that. I get what you're saying there. Like, you know, but that one, it'd be nice for, who was it? Clare and Waterford. Like, funnily enough, the day blown, when the match finished in Waterford that day, we were through.
Yeah, and there was a late.
And seconds later, we were out because Clare got a late score. I did. Tipperary beat them above in
the they got a goal, I think, or
got a goal late on.
Yeah.
You know, so it was Clare and Waterford came out. Yeah, I think for them that would be important because they'd have a trophy, they'd have a medal, they'd feel good about themselves.
Absolutely.
And you know, it would help them, and you know, there's something in here to be got out of it. Like, and there are small things for counties that are not going to be at the top end of Limerick or Sam Maguire, you know. So I take a point completely, Matt. I think
because the way I look at it, Billy, you know, a young fella starting off there, he sees Cork and Kerry and says to himself, they're going to be playing the Munster final. I've no chance.
Yeah.
But like if you had the step of the Darrell Darcy Cup, which was the final of the Phase 1, it would be certainly to be something to motivate and to drive him to.
I think so. Like, yeah, you know, it's a bit like, you know, people talking about getting rid of the National League finals in Croke Park, and that's fine if you want to get rid of Division 1. But you know, for lesser teams down in certainly Division 3 and 3, 4, they're hugely important to try and keep a group together. You know, keep continuity in the sport within them counties that it's where hurling is predominantly number 1, and then always will be. And I don't think anyone within them counties fight that argument. You know, it is what it is. But it's good that these kids, because the commitment inter-county players are given now is just off the Richter scale. It's just gone to a level. I begin to wonder how far more it can go. We're asking too much in many, many ways. You know, I often had the conversation with lads trying to stop lads coming down from Dublin from training. Can you imagine that? Coming down from Dublin to training, go back up a car, get into bed about 1 o'clock and get up for work the following morning. You know, and that's what's expected. That is what is expected of inter-county training now. Like, and if you don't have the lads from far away at the training ground, it loses momentum, and for they start to wonder what's player A or player B doing. So, you know, I think any encouragement you can give to young lads in the counties where one of the sports is the lesser of the sports, it should be always encouraged, in my opinion.
They had a bit of a program on the radio this morning about the prevalence of ACL injuries.
Yeah.
You know, and
the level of injury, Matt, like they're tearing hamstrings off the bone now. You know, I mean, you can take you compare talent from one generation to another, right? But what you can't compare is the fitness levels. They're just gone to a different level altogether now. Like, you see fellas tagging off now. Like, I mean, inter-county players now, hurling of football, are stronger than rugby players were back in the 90s.
Yeah, if you just look at
you know what I mean? Like
the physique, yeah.
Look at the McCullough sort of pass, and I'm not just picking in because that all boys. Take most county teams. You know, I see some of the Limerick footballers, big strong men. You take them, they're ripped like. So it's just at a different level, and you keep stretching the body, you're stretching the muscles. It's like an elastic band. It's going to have to go. And I know from talking to one or two prominent county players outside my own county that they're going back and they're feeling the pressure now in certain counties to try and play with their club and commit to that. And the split season is putting an awful lot of pressure on the inter-county players because they're all the time at it. They go back to the club, right? So.
And especially players maybe who are having success at club level, because that rolls the calendar fully around into the new year, and it really can really be a pinch point. And we saw Andy Moore mentioned the Mayo lads who I suppose were pulled away from jobs in Dublin and back. Basically, he wanted them home, but that's not sustainable for everyone or in every county. But that was the price that needed to be paid for them to find those extra few inches to get over that line. So it's you're right. It is a question of where this is all going. Anyway, we could be chatting about that.
Just before we finish, it never ceases to amaze me for the last 8 years the way that the Limerick team can transition from the heights of Croke Park and turn out some excellent performances with that club, and they're doing it without exception again this year.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
I think a lot of it is a mindset, you know. I think a lot of it is, you know, where it's at. Like I watched Patrick Swell, Newcastle and Kilmallock the first round of the league, and they were up 8 points at half time. Bit of a breeze, probably wasn't an 8-point breeze, but it was certainly 5 or 6, you know. And we got back to it. And the development we did, who was the man that put head up and drove the team forward from there? Mr. Keane Lynch. He was just absolutely outstanding for about a 7 or 8, 9, 10-minute spell. Won all the dirty ball that needed going from puck outs. You know, the way no one can do it like him. He draws people in and he fires the ball out and you don't know where it's going. Dermot at centre back was starting to sweep up then as well, like, you know. So that's the real test of it. When the pressure's on, your club needs you, they are tonguing it on.
Yeah, but they've done it without exception, and most of them have 6 All-Ireland medals in their pockets.
Yeah.
It's a huge credit to the type of character that they are. The excellent characters they are.
I think as well that the culture and the environment that John and Paul and all associated with the management team have created, led by John, there's no question about that. I think that's hugely, you know, and I think if we go back and you just think when they got on the bus after the 2018 All-Ireland final, the line in the sand was drawn that day when he taught lads to enjoy it. He remembers, you know what I mean? And I think maybe, you know, John would have been, I'm no doubt promoting that kind of a culture in the first place, but there was the opportunity to reel it. And I'd say it's fair to say we've never seen Lee McCarthy outside of a club. You don't see it in social gatherings unless it's a function at a club, but you don't see it in bars or pubs or anything like that. And I think the culture was set. And I think people feed off of that across society, not just J clubs, you know. They think it's. So I think John, you know, he set that and he set the tone that you see them signing autographs. This is what's expected of you now, and they just go on and buy into it, and that takes up a lot of their time, like, you know, and they're happy to do it. So, you know, tremendous ambassadors, and sometimes that's not seen. You know, tremendous ambassadors, a lot of them.
Yeah, for sure. I always think with the autographs when they've lost a club game or a county game, and they're still so giving. I always say, I don't have a child myself, but I see, Jesus, I'd nearly be pulling my own child. If I had a child, I'd be pulling him away. Say, lads, will you give him a break? He's after a high-octane game. But in fairness, the lads, they don't relent in that regard. It's phenomenal. Yeah. Anyway, look, we want to discuss a bit of senior football with you, Billy. Things have progressed. We're kind of halfway through the group phases, or beyond halfway, really 3 rounds down, 2 to go. I just wanted, I suppose we'll start with maybe some of the ups and downs in Group 1. Potter Casey's and Newcastle West, your own club, obviously involved there. Casey's potentially 1 win away from booking their spot straight into the semi-finals. By my calculations, I think they're basically into a quarter-final anyway. It would take a bizarre set of results maybe for them to miss out.
I don't think it's possible even, Tom. I tried to find a way, a permutation that would put them out.
If it does happen, we'll hold our hands up here on Treaty Talk. But looks like Potter Casey's into the knockouts, having obviously earlier gotten the better Newcastle West. But beneath that, then there's a fair old scramble in this group, Billy, because you've obviously said St. Kieran's and Ula, Monaleen, and beneath them even Galtee Gales, who are all teams on the board. Like, so this group is, it's maybe the other one's set up even differently, but this one is it's going to be fairly hot and heavy now to get the last 2 spots alongside Potter Casey's.
Yeah, I think so. And look, I suppose I work with one of the lads here, one of the backman members of Abbeyfield. We'll be talking about it. We need to see, Limerick football needs to see Abbeyfield coming to the fore and prominent for the next number of years. I've been saying that for a while. I've been saying to him, they've been in at least 13 of the last 20 minor football finals, winning 11. I know Newcastle beat them in 2, and I can't tell you about the other 7. So that tells you the level of talent's gone through. So at some point, that's got to come through, and it's coming through in the last year or two. If the truth be told, I was watching the match on television because I had got my hip operated on it last year. They should have beaten Newcastle in the semi-final last year. And it was a bit of an experience. I have the two Newcastle boys saying that when we last won the possession from some kick out, they should have pulled us down. And, you know, we wouldn't look at them. We went down the field and kicked the 2-pointer to win the game. And, you know, so they'll harness that. They were beaten in the final the year before. Probably should have beat us from what I heard and the bit I saw on it. So, look, I think they're the team, themselves and Mungo are going to be the teams to beat. They were better than us today in I was at that game. Again, they're young. They're probably just finding their way, really, from a mental point of view, with what it takes to win at this level, you know, playing against inexperienced characters like Ian Corbett's and the Mike McMahons, and they are equals across all clubs, you know. So I think they'll come through. They're playing Kieran's. I believe Kieran's are lucky enough to come over, get a point out of the game against Monaghan on.
Very lucky now.
Finished strong now, came from 7 down,
And fair play to them because they were good. In the game we played against them in a as well. It was even in the first half, and you wouldn't have seen Newcastle go on and win as easily as they did, albeit they really started to dominate the last 15 minutes of the second half and really rubber stamped it, I think, with a very, very late goal. I was nearly getting out of the grounds with the last goal came in. So, but you know, so there is ability there now for sure. St. Kieran's. So look, they'll be playing Abbeyfield, but that's probably I think they'll struggle to win that. And that will put Abbeyfield straight into the semi-final then, because that puts them straight in. We didn't
with work to do, Billy.
Sorry, Matt.
It leaves St. Kieran's with work to do.
Yeah, it does. It puts them in a precarious position. Galty Gales, we were lucky enough against Ola from what I'm hearing. Didn't play well in the first half. Had a man sent off, got a goal before half time, and probably with a black card, I should say, rather sent off. And it probably set us, we'd have been 6 points down instead of 3. And then we kind of took it on from there, got a couple of goals. I saw 1 or 2 of them on social media because I was on holidays last week. And, you know, probably fortunate. So the manner of the victory against Ola may not be where Newcastle are at. And there's a bit of change in Newcastle as well. Look, there's a lot of the really established players are on the wrong side of 30 now. So we need to start seeing young lads coming through to be able to take us back to where we were when they won the 3 in a row. Father time is catching up. You know, Ian's 34, Brian DeHarty's 34. They're starting Mike Willigan goals, maybe 38, maybe Mike Mack 40 odd, you know. And there's others, Brian Sullivan's on the other side 30. Lee Wolf is, I don't know if he's 27 or 8. Like, so, you know, he's that long in the squad. So we are beginning to age. So we just want to keep our feet on the ground. I think if we beat Galty Gales, we're probably into the quarter final. I think they will get over the line, but far be it for them to underestimate Galty Gales. Don't think they will with the management team they have, but the lads have to go and perform. And in the last game in the group, Unan Monaghan. Well, now look, if you were sitting where Monaghan were and had the game won and didn't lose, you would be gunning. On the other side, Ola lost by a margin they probably shouldn't have lost by, so they should be in the headspace of we need to go out and readdress this. So that could be a very mouth-watering contest or whatever evening it is on. I give Monaghan I'll give Monaghan the nod on that. So where would that leave it? I'd say they'd probably leave it.
Just getting back to Ola there, Billy. They are the unlucky team of the championship. Like Brendan McCaffrey came up in the game against Kieran's with the very last effort at the half of the game and fisted over a point. Sean Casey did the very same thing in the game against Galty Gales. So in the opening 2 rounds, instead of going into round 3 with 4 points, they were going in with round 2 with 2 points.
And
they've lost to Newcastle, and if they lose to Monaghan, those 2 points are going to be crucial.
They've got Abbeyfield in the last game, Matt, and I just can't see him beating Abbeyfield. You know, Abbeyfield in the semi-final. Abbeyfield might decide we need to try to keep the panel rejigged and keep fellas fighting for players. They might make 2 or 3 changes, you know, and I'm not sure that'll weaken them, to be honest with you. But that'll be a tough ask for Ola, I think, you know. Abbeyfield will be on a roll, and if if they've got the bit between the teeth, they're going to be hard to beat this year, I think, you know.
Yeah,
And they should have, and in my opinion, they should have the bit between the teeth because they lost the county final, they lost the semi-final, they probably should have won. I mean, you'd be smarting if you're really chasing after it. You'd be smarting over that, you know, and you'd be going through walls and mountains to actually win it, you know.
Yeah, Matt, we were actually at the game the weekend, Galtee Gales, which was in Croom, and they were in like 6-1 up, looked comfortable. Then suddenly was it 7-all at half time?
6-all at half time.
6-all at half time, I should say. Yeah, and they had to bring on Adrian in, right? He kicked a couple of scores, made the goal. Then, you know, didn't have it all their own way. And this is against maybe a Galtee Gales side that people might be looking to say, will Galtee Gales avoid relegation or not? You know, so they didn't put their real stamp on things until, you know, basically the final 6 or 7 minutes. You know,
it was a Gales team. There was Don Morris O'Sullivan and Zach McCarthy.
And I think we were down a couple of lads on holidays as well, Matt. That's what I thought. I came back here on Monday, back to work. And Adrian, I think, was only back from holidays, if I'm not mistaken.
That's all.
Well.
Adrian only came on at half time, but he made an instant impact because he got the first 2 points of the second half for cases.
Adrian is a tremendous player, you know. He always did the hard work, the hard yards, can kick a score, pace. Athletic, powerfully built, you know. I had a great time for him, and signs on he was nearly always a starter on the teams the latter years when he started to throw his in with us, you know.
And never let you down either, Billy.
No, he's tremendous, you know, and he goes at it like, you know, he doesn't know any other way to play, you know. So it'll be interesting. There's a bit of playing to be done. If anyone takes their eye off the ball, they'll I think they'll be feeling a bit of scope to manoeuvre, but other than that, underestimate a team.
You're right. So I think quite literally all 6 teams can still qualify. Like, so I know that's not always the case after 3 rounds. So given we've had 3 draws in this group, it probably keeps everyone with something really to fight for. And obviously there's 2 relegation semi-finals to try and avoid as well. So I think
the championship needs it. Like in Group 1, you've got one game Thursday night, one game Friday night, one game Saturday night. You know, so that should drum up interest. You know, amongst the teams within that group who feel they have a chance of qualifying. You know,
We should
Billy, if you were in Father Casey's position now, and the position you outlined, and if they're to get the better of St. Kieran's and they'll go into the final round with the semi-final, you know, nailed down, you know, would you be inclined to stick to a settled team and get momentum, because there is a break to the semi-final if you get that you know, you bypass a week or two and that there is a gap until you, would you be inclined to stick, or would you be inclined to see what are the fringe players like?
I'd be checking. I wouldn't make any more than 3 changes anyway, I can tell you that for a start, because I think you need to have momentum. And fellas, like, you'd only 3 changes, you know, 1 in the forwards, probably 1 in the backs, 1 around the middle 8, you know, another 1 in the middle 8, maybe, you know, 2 in the middle 8, maybe 1 in the inside line of the forwards and 1 in the backs, you know, that kind of thing, because you want lads used to playing with each other and you want to build confidence in each other and get to understanding of rules. But at the same time, if training's going well, you do need to give lads an opportunity to feel that they are being watched, they are being given opportunities. And equally, when it comes down to it, if you, let's say, them 3 you put on, if they're not doing it, well, then you know they may not do it in the championship match. But if you don't play them and you look back in the heat of battle and you say, well, I have Billy or Mr. A, Mr. B, but you might know they're not going to cut it. You think they will cut it. So you need to find out about players too. But you want to keep on a winning momentum. You don't want to go into the semi-final having lost your last game. And so I'd want to be trying 1 or 2 lads. I'd want to be making sure I know where they're at. I'd want to make sure that you'd have a good balance from lads who have been playing, and I'd want to be making sure you win it, because that's the key to it. They're going in and then keep the feet in the ground, work hard, get a couple of challenge games, and then rack up and realise we threw an opportunity to win it last year. We threw an opportunity to win it, and hell or high water shouldn't be standing. That's the way they should be approaching it. My head anyway.
Yeah, Matt, we should look at the other group as well with Billy while the time is still with us. Mungret, St. Paul's, Killarney, Pallaskenry, Rackeel all got wins at the weekend, and we know now that a win for Mungret, Matt, this weekend will put them straight into the semi-final, and even a defeat for Adair could see them out here. So this group in its own right is well poised as well, and we have the 2 teams at the foot of the table as well, Askeaton, Ballysteen, Kilcorn and Ballylanders, knowing a defeat here will put them in real peril for the championship. So this one well set up as well, Matt.
Yeah, it is. It is very well set up, and I've been hugely impressed. I have to say, with Mungret St. Paul's as champions, and like they haven't just built a team; they have built a very, very strong squad. If you look at their first 2 games, they were down 6 key players. They were down Jason Hassett, Kieran Owatsi, Killian Ryan, Jack McCarthy, Darrow Hagan, Darrow Sullivan. 6 key players in last year's county final. Now, Killian Ryan and Jason Hassett were back last week, and lo and behold, Frank Corcoran and Brendan Giltinan were gone. So, they're on the threshold of qualifying for the semi-final, down 6 key players. So, I think it gives you a sense of the strength of the squad that they have. And I personally, I cannot see him being, I can see him, going straight through to the semi-final. Now, they'll get a bit of a test tomorrow night. There's no question about that, or this weekend from Kildimo Pallaskenry, because they have won the reputation already of being the comeback kings. But they will probably be wondering, how Kildimo Pallaskenry will be wondering how they slipped up in the first round to newly promoted ABK, which they did. And since then, they have come back and we discussed it off air, 8 points down with 20 minutes to go against Rathkeil, rattled in 4 goals, won the match, 7 points down last week against the Dare. And I'll tell you, putting anything back against the Dare isn't easy, and came back and won it by a couple of points. So I wouldn't be totally writing off Kildimo Pallaskenry by any manner of means in this game, but it looks like it has to be, in my opinion, it looks like as if it has to be Mungret straight through to the semi-final.
Yeah. Billy, just on Kildimo Pallaskenry, 3 men that you'd know, you would have come across, I'm sure, down the years. Cathal Downs is back in the country and, by all accounts, making a huge impact. But to have him, Tony McCarthy and Peter Nash, like, kind of dotted in a club team, and obviously they definitely have more besides who are obviously stepping up to the plate. But to have those 3 there, that's going to augur well for the Lavin brothers, who are obviously at the helm here of the coaching ticket.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Carl didn't. I invited Carl in 22, but he was trying other things and didn't avail it. But Peter and Tony, they're just outstanding leaders, and when they talk, people would listen. They're very well capable. Their capability to talk to people is, outstanding. Nice and calm. Say the right things. Challenge people, but do it in a way that you're going to listen. And if you can't respond to them at that stage, then it says more about you than it would about how they approach you. So 2 brilliant men have been in the dressing room. Cathal, no doubt. I've no doubt. I thought a lot of him. I was seeing him up along with under 16s, trying to get him on when I was managing 20. I don't know. Maybe it was a long time ago anyway, when John Hayes was under 16. It was 10 years ago. So Carl has got plenty of capability, and we commentated in Newcastle and Kildimo last year. Remember blowing Rathkeil?
Yeah.
And Carl was the one man we were trying to see. Like, he still brought the fight to Newcastle in the second half. They just won on song that night, but Carl was still fighting the hard battle, the hard yards. And so it tells you about his character. He's well able. And Kildimo have done a lot of work. And Lavin's in their coaching, they'll be getting top level coaching. But they've done a lot of work underage over the years, and it's paying off in hurling of football, So it doesn't surprise me that they'll be capable of making an impact. I do think Mungret, again, maybe was it a derby game between Eskeet and Ballystine, Kilcarnan?
Well, the fact that Cathal Downs' brother was playing against him will tell you that it was probably there was a bit of spice.
Yeah, I think so. Some of the lads in Kilcarnan could go either way. So I think that might have been what's going on there. The only watch out for Kildimo is they're going to get caught. You can't be giving away leads like 7. It's not always going to come true. Yeah. And there's a lot of matches going on at the moment now between hurling and football. I'm sure they've got a lot of Jude players, so that's going to catch
their
them.
big challenge. That's their big challenge, because they've, I think, upwards of, I was told the other day, 12 or 13 that have started in both codes. Started hurling and football games at various senior games this year. That potentially could catch up on them, and they're obviously in a bit of peril in the senior hurling championship. So they can't. It's not like they can ignore one as well as time goes on. But in fairness to them, that's huge results against the Dare. We've seen the Dare time and again, Billy, through these group phases, just picking off the results, picking off the wins. And I tell you, since they were back up from when they won the intermediate, I'm pretty sure they've qualified from the group every single season. So for them now, with 2 games to go, to be to be in doubt of that. Probably says, that Kildare and Pallaskenry have pulled one out of the hat here.
I would think so. I watched it there in Newcastle in the West. What do they call it? No, West. I got to call it West Championship final.
Yeah,
and
so was it?
Yeah, they were down at half time, and Jesus, the second half they were just outstanding. I mean, they just ripped Newcastle apart. Hugh Buck gave an exhibition in the second half that night. He was just outstanding. You'd want to see. I put it just way: if David Clifford did, or Paddy Clifford did what he did for the first goal, they'd to be a different ball game. I can tell you that.
Anyone have the video, lads? Let us know.
The pass he gave to Paul Maher that night was just unreal. Unreal. Now he was looking at the sideline, he put it back over his shoulder and into Paul. Paul gives him a goal and changed the whole game. So I think they will do what they're playing Rackeel. So that'll be Rackeel when they get qualified as well. So we'll see from there.
They have the Rackeel have 4 points, and they're going to be down Paul White. I understand that the injury that he picked up against Kildare Pallaskenry is going to rule him out for quite a while, which is unfortunate because he's such an important player for Rackeel. But of course, Barry Coleman is in fantastic form. I think that's a game that could go either way now. Rackeel, how they must be lamenting having conceded that 8-point lead, because they would be on 6 points now had they held out in that game. But in fairness, Kildare Pallaskenry turned an 8-point deficit into a 7-point victory. So, it was a massive change of turnaround. But I think Rackeel will be there or thereabouts in this one, Billy.
Yeah, it would surprise me. I watched them when I was a manager of Stacks. I watched them play in Kilshannig in the Munster Club Championship.
That's right.
We'd won the day before, and I went off to Kilshannig from Tralee that Sunday. And I can tell you that scoreline didn't do Rackeel justice that day in Kilshannig. No, 100%. Perhaps, Kilshannig was that bit physically stronger. I accept that. But I can tell you, Rackeel played some beautiful football that day. I would say possibly at the start, probably lacked a bit of self-belief, to do it. And we're struggling with kickouts. But by God, when they got the grip of that, they played some outstanding football, really did. You meet on the 40 was very, very good. They were right. They were really good all through.
He's a very good player, Andrew.
Got a super goal. His brother got the goal from full back that same day. His mom was very good at wing back. They were very, he was a bit. Barry was good. Barry Cole was good that day. They have plenty of football. So if their belief is high, they'll give their socks of it.
Yeah. I think what they have, Billy, crucially, is they have scores, because obviously Barry, we know, a 2-point threat from frees and from play. And then obviously Andrew Mead, when he goes inside, has that pace as well, and then obviously other lads will chip in around that as well. So, in this new look football, if you have lads that can score from either close in terms of goals or far out, that will always give you a chance. And that obviously means then that other teams will be reluctant to foul. So when Barry's carrying the ball through, they're not going to foul him, because at the end of the day he'll probably put it on the surface and knock over twos all day. So it gives him a real chance.
Just the statistic, Tom, in the game against Kildare Pallaskenry, I was at it. In slightly less than 6 minutes, he kicked three 2-pointers from play.
Yeah. And he's growing in confidence too. Last year's run the Telton Cup final, he's vice captain of the squad. He's in there my last year. So what's that? 4 years now. So he's growing and he's developing.
I think the injuries, touch wood, the injuries seem to be behind him as well, because even in that run to the Telton Cup final, it was in and out, and eventually kind of got it right just at the right time. But if clean bill of health is huge to play.
And I think the more games you play and the more self-belief it builds into you, the better you become without even improving your skills or your natural football ability. So I think Barry's in that space where he's growing and he's maturing. I've heard nothing but positive things about him around the squad, and I didn't hear that from Jim either, as other people were telling me, so he's gone the right way. So he's a threat, no question about it. But if they can do what they did in the second half to Newcastle, I can tell you it'll be a humdinger of a game. It's interesting. 1 play 2, 3 play 4, and 5 play 6 in this game.
Yeah, that's actually a very good way of looking at it. Yeah, and a lot could be decided. We could have obviously Munger in the semi-final. We could have Adair out, and that could, if Adair go out, and it would put Kildare and Rackeel through as well ahead of the final round, and we could then be looking at Adair to try and avoid relegation. Now again, I'm not writing their obituary by any means, but that's what's on the line here this weekend, which is fantastic, because let's face it, lads, we've had a couple of seasons in these groups where it's been a bit of a foregone conclusion for a lot of the ups and downs, maybe before the last couple of rounds. So I think it's fantastic, as you say, Billy. 1v2, 3v4, 5v6. There's so much peril here at the weekend.
Am I right in thinking along the lines here that a day if they don't win, I think they could be out? Am I right in saying that if they don't win, they're probably out?
Yeah, well, a draw would probably keep them in it, but a defeat and
okay.
My calculations are all book on.
They'll be out in the head-to-head with Kildimo Pallaskenry.
Yeah.
And Rathkeale will have gone to 6.
Yeah. So they won't be able to catch Rathkeale, and they have a Kildimo Pallaskenry. If Kildimo lose to Mungret and to Ballylanders, Kildimo having the head-to-head if they don't.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah. So we've worked it out. Yeah. So that's it.
So they have to get a result. They'll have to get a result in this game.
Yeah, a draw is the absolute minimum here for them to bring it to the final round. But on the converse, and I should give the flip of it, if they do win, I mean they're the head on Rathkeale then all of a sudden, and they're looking the other way, So it's
And they came the last round.
You'll be a foolish man to write it there off. They're proud.
Yeah.
They bounce back.
I'm
not saying you're not. No, I know that. We're not.
No.
We're looking at the what ifs they could be out.
What ifs?
But I think you're hoping they're out. You know what I mean? Because it's one less threat. It's not that we don't like it there. It's just it's one less threat to try and win a championship.
But it is great. And again, not talking to there down, but it is great that one of the favourites for the championship before Bob was thrown in, that they are now in danger, and that maybe shows that some of the other teams have stepped up, and they're not just going to lie down and roll over and have their belly tickled, as I say, by it there, and that's fantastic for the championship.
And that's the way it should be. That's the way championship should be. You fear no one.
We needed it because we had 3 or 4 years there where we had the same 4 teams in the last 4.
Yeah.
Badly needed. Mungret were like a breath of fresh air last year, strode right through it, or the year before. They were fantastic.
It needs a local championship needs that, Matt. It's said the Holland Championship was much similar. You knew before anything goes that it was going to be Patrickswell, Doon, the Piercig, and Ballymallow semi-final. Now that's kind of shaken up a small bit in the last year or two, which is, I think, am I right to say that Ballybrown only broke that for about a 10-year period back around 2016? They got into semi-final.
Liberties were the only other ones in between in 22 and
2022, I think.
Yeah. So
they beat Patrickswell in the quarter-final up in Kilmallock.
So you're right. Twice, in 10 or 11 seasons, 11 seasons, you've only had 6 different semi-finalists, and 2 of them have only been kind of one-offs.
I think championships need that to keep the crowd coming back, because other than that, actually we know what's going to happen there. They're not interested. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. So
now I'm going to whisper this next one, but 56. Sorry, Matt. Ballylanders.
Step up to the plate, Matt.
Ballylanders against.
Ballylanders always have a backstop that they win the relegation playoff.
Yes, I think they should be nicknamed the Grim Reapers. Should they be? They're taking out other people. This, of course, is a repeat of a relegation final which was played in unmerciful conditions a couple of seasons ago.
2 years ago.
In Paddy Carroll Park, when they sent Ballysteen, as they were, I think at the time, sent them down. They're now back, renewed energy, I suppose, for the grade. But a huge game here, Matt, because the loser here is I'm pretty sure they'll be nearly nailed on for the relegation semi-final, and unfortunately,
look, Tom. Well, certainly if Bally lose it, they're definitely in the relegation semi-final. If ABK win it, they have a chance, because they have another game. They have the final game, and they will have a potential. They'll be on 4 points, and they'll have a potential 6 if they could win the last game. So it's Bally have everything to lose in this one. And even to win it, it is questionable whether it will be enough to extricate them from the relegation scramble, because they have Kildimo Pallaskenry on the last day of the last round of the championship. I think this is going to be a humdinger. When I say humdinger, I think it's going to be on the edge right through the game. And when I say humdinger, I'm not talking about quality of football now, because tension will be fairly high in there in Rebogue on Friday evening. My heart, my head tells me ABK will win it. My heart tells me Ballylanders.
Don't ever change, Matt. Fair play to you. Billy, it's they're the great survivors, it seems like, in the last few years, and as we know, they're right down in that little corner of the county. But will the trapdoor eventually come and get them, unless things change in the immediate future, maybe?
It could well do eventually. If you're there all the time, it will catch you, unless you've got something coming through and what Ballyland has got coming through. I'm not 100% certain how strong it is, but I think the wise old heads have kept them up there in the last couple of years. I would say, they're probably going over the hill now and probably retiring and not there.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the problem is going to be for Ballylanders. You see, even if they win, it doesn't necessarily mean that they won't be on the relegation. So they'll be under pressure there to. They'll be under pressure there to.
Two results probably needed.
Yeah. So and like what's possible here is that if ABK win and Adair win, and Mungret win, you're going to have 4 teams and 4 points going into the last round.
Yeah.
And one team in 8, 4 and 4, and 1 and 0.
Yeah. So you'll have one team in the semi-final, one team in a relegation semi-final, and then 4 scrapping to avoid
2 to go one way and 1 to go the way they don't want to go.
And like you're absolutely right there, Billy. When you think of players like Stephen Fox and Jimmy Barry Murphy, who were extraordinary leaders, in fairness, now extraordinary leaders, like they have packed it up, and
they were 2 men I was thinking of.
Yeah, God knows they don't owe anything to football, not to the club. Absolutely fantastic footballers.
And they left it all out there every time. Love them or like them or whatever you think. They left it out there. They did what was required for their club, their part of their community, and you can't ever fault the person for that.
No, absolutely no. No, Danny Froon, in terms of leadership now, is almost ploughing a lone furrow because there are a lot of young players around him, and he picked up an injury the last day against Mungret St. Paul's, and you just hope that he will be able to feature against ABK because he'd be hugely important, both as a player and as a leader. He'd be a double whammy loss, for that reason, and where the leaders are coming, in Bally, I'm not so sure. Maybe they will evolve over time. Sometimes fellas can, be plodding along this year, and the following year they might take on leadership courses or leadership roles. But I find it very, very hard. It's very, very difficult because you're sitting out there at the start of the season and you're sort of targeting games that you might win. It's unsustainable, as you say, Billy. It is not sustainable because, being realistic about it, you should go out into every game expecting that you have a chance to win it.
Absolutely, and you play on your merits. That's the way it is. And the funny thing about leadership is that when the lads leave, it's amazing how young lads step into that void when they get a bit of confidence about themselves that they've always left it to the older lads. When the other lads are there, so perhaps in Ballylanders, some of the younger lads coming through, in their mid-20s now will step up, or learn to step up through this year. And that's what often can happen.
Yeah, but there could be a crisis of confidence is strong, but there could be a bit of concern in the Skeeton Ballysteen for the corner because I don't know the exact score the last day at half time. Were they only 4 or 5 down against? It was even tighter, I think, against Rathkeale. And the game just got away from him, and that can unravel what your great plans for the year. Things can unravel from there. So neither side coming in form. So it is quite literally relegation 4-pointer, Billy.
Yeah, without a doubt, and it guarantees a win. Guarantees none of nothing. It doesn't take him away from relegation. Doesn't put him in. Anything is possible. The only thing we know is that probably if Bally lose, they are in the relegation. Beyond that,
the only guarantee. I'd say.
That's the only guarantee. So we gotta wait and see.
Yeah, for sure. Matt, anything else for Billy before we let him go? It was great with his 15 minutes of fairness.
Absolutely, so enlightening and so informing. It's fantastic, absolutely.
I was great to talk to you, man.
Yeah, lovely. Great to see you, Billy. And I'm sure we'll cross paths at a game.
Yeah, we sure will. Okay.
Down the running. And hopefully the viewers and listeners enjoyed it. It was a bit of a ramble through the games, but hopefully they picked up something out of it. And, we'll keep the flag flying for the...
Whatever.
We were calling it as we saw it. But just getting back to the 3 boys in Kildimo Palace Kinry, Billy, just before you go, Tony McCarthy, Cahill Downs, and Peter Nash, they're almost football's equivalent to Burns, Lynch, and Gillane.
Yeah.
When
you put it that way. Yeah. You're not a million miles away from Peter Connor forward, Alan Gillane, Tony halfback, Diarmaid Burns, and Cahill Downs midfield, Keane Lynch.
Yeah, but their importance is nearly the same, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, I can imagine younger lads below, Peter probably talk more than, would talk up more faster than Tony.
He can.
Yeah,
I know that.
Yeah. But, they do it in such a way that, they're bringing people with them. They're not, they've a great way of talking,
absolutely.
bringing people with them. They're calm, they're collected. They don't panic. They just play the game for every ball, literally the next ball. They just get on with it like that, and they're not trying to prove themselves to anyone or anything like that. Tony's journey and Peter's journey through intercounties for their intercounty careers has been phenomenal, struggling to get in, didn't get in, probably fell out, back in, tremendous characters and tremendous attitudes, and that I'm sure it's rubbing off on a lot of younger lads in Kildare how to conduct themselves on the football side of it. I can't, obviously Kyle is there as well, and I'm no doubt that he's showing leadership from that point of view as well, on the field and in the dressing room. So, but I can only speak for the two boys, and they were tremendous characters.
Yeah, those two lads would have come from junior B with the club all the way to senior, and they're still there, and they've brought them back to a couple of quarterfinals at senior level, which is a fair achievement from where they started out from in 2009, 2010 or thereabouts with these two lads. So it's been a phenomenal rise. So
the way I put it was, them boys wanted to play at the next level, test themselves at the next level. They wanted to see could they make it or not make it. They took knocks along the way. They kept coming back because they wanted. It wasn't, they weren't trying to prove anything. They weren't trying. It was for themselves. That's the kind of characters you were dealing with here, and they just wanted to test their ability to be the best they could be and to sustain it. And that's what they've done, to be fair to them.
Yeah, it is. Peter has Matt's other hat as well. So Peter, for listening, drop back the hat. Right, Billy, we'll leave you go now before we get another tangent. Thanks for joining us. We'll chat to you soon.
All right, talk to you soon. Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye.
Billy.
Yeah, great to have Billy on there.
A real football man. He knows his. I'll tell you, he knows his stuff. Boy.
Yeah, we'll get that hat back as well for Matt. There's no panic at all. We'll get it back indeed. So look, that's the senior football. I'll just run it.
I told Nash anyway that the next match I'm covering, if he gets a goal, I'm putting it down to another.
Until the hat is back. Yeah, he won't be attributed with the scores. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the fixtures there. But yeah, Matt, just look, it is a frantic weekend of senior football. There's obviously the lower grades as well, but
it is absolutely down the grades, Tom, and there are 3 outstanding games. Is it 2 or 3 outstanding games still in the Premier or in the Intermediate Championship?
Yeah,
one of them is Kappa and
St. Pat's, no?
Kappa and Pats.
Yeah. Kokora is another one.
Sinnans are involved in another one.
Is it?
Sinnans
and Kokora, maybe? I don't know. I actually don't have it to hand now, so I won't bore the listeners listening to me oohing and ahhing. But
no, I was looking at
Napiershig and Sinnans.
They're all down for the 9th of September.
Yeah, Napiershig and Sinnans and Kappa versus St. Pat's in each one in each group. So that's what we're missing. But just to give those the ongoings in those groups. In one group, group 2. Sorry, I'll go to group 1 first. Galbally are leading the way. They got a victory, didn't they? On, was it Monday evening?
They got a victory on Monday evening against Pats, 2-10 to 2-5. They've suffered one defeat. Now Galbally won the last 2 intermediate leagues in 2023 and 2024 and 2025, and they won the equivalent of it this year when they won Division 3 of the senior, we'll say, of the overall county championship, which was the equivalent to 3 in a row. So they would have gone into the championship with high expectations, but they got a wake-up call in the opening round when they lost by a goal to Kappa. No, just to Kappa. And they had a huge win over Palace Green in round 2, and like that, after backing it up now with a win over St. Pat's, and they're in action again at the weekend. I think it's a unique match, actually. I don't know would they have ever played in the championship. Certainly not at this level. They're playing a hand.
Yeah, on Sunday evening. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah. Very fair point. Yeah, I couldn't and we're outside the top 2 tiers for so long in football, and back in the day when they were winning counties, they probably wouldn't have crossed paths with Galway either because of the division system. So you're right, it might be. It's a very unique fixture.
It may be a novel fixture now. I wouldn't be 100% sure. I probed to a certain degree, and I said to myself, I'm getting nowhere here. I'm going down an abyss. So,
if anyone knows, let us know. But that's being played in Bruff.
We would be very, very glad to know and bow to superior knowledge of anyone that would have information on it.
Yeah, just to give the intermediate fixture. So Newcastle West and St. Pat's on Saturday evening, 6:30 p.m. throw in Kappa. Palace Green will face Kappa in St. Pat's on Sunday at noon. And also, as Matt said there, Galbally versus Han, 6 p.m. in Bruff. They're the Group 1 fixtures. The other ones, group leaders, Gerald Griffins will face Clahan. Clahan drew it in the Piercy, didn't they? Or sorry, drew with St. Senans, was it?
With St. Senans.
With St. Senans, yeah. In a ding-dong battle in Clorina. But the fixtures in this one, Thursday evening, Gerald Griffins versus Clahan, that's 6:30 p.m. in Arda. Friday evening, St. Senans will face Drum Broadford in Newcastle West from 6:30 p.m. And the same throw-in time also on Friday evening in Ratban will see the City divisional sides, the Piercig and Crocora Manister, battle for points. So Gerald Griffins lead the way, Drum Broadford in the rearview mirror, just slightly behind, and the Piercig and Clahan, they're locked in the middle with a win and a draw each, although the Piercig have a game in hand against Senans as well. So look, last year's finalist Senans not off to a good start, one draw from the two outings, but there is obviously scope for them to sneak back into third.
Just briefly there, a fantastic turnaround by Gerald Griffins from last year.
Yeah, we
really struggled. Now you couldn't say 100% that they're in the knockout stages, but to take something special to put them out of it, with 5 points from 6. They drew with Drum in the first round. They had a big win over Crocora Manister in round 2, and they won again last weekend. They had a big win over St. Senans in round 2. Not a very big win, but a comfortable win over St. Senans, and they had a big win over Crocora Manister last week. So that has given them the 5 points. So that they're in a very strong position, and they're playing this weekend against
Clahan. They have to, by my reckoning, if they win this weekend, they will be there. Even a draw again, another draw in this group. There's been 3 draws, but another draw here will probably have them over the line in terms of qualification for the last knockout
stage. But a win will certainly put them over the line. Yeah,
a win, and indeed will put them close to a direct route to the semi-final. Okay, that's our lot for the football this week. Matt, we have plenty more to discuss. As always, we were planning on a nice tight show, but we got caught down the rabbit hole with Billy, which is great. But we'll come back on track for the rest of it. Matt, hurling, football. We're saying football in terms of the Masters are in action on Saturday in their All-Ireland semi-final.
I'll explain it again. There are about 24 or 25 teams into the Masters each year, and you play 6 games in a sort of a group round-robin phase, and the top 20 teams qualify. The top 4 teams then go through. It's the one table. The top 4 teams go through to the Mick Loftus Cup. The late Dr. Mick Loftus, former president of the GA, who started the whole Masters concept. Then you have the Shield, and then you have the Plate, which would be the equivalent to the 3rd tier. And you have the Challenge Cup, which would be the 4th tier, and you have the Spirit Cup, which would be the 5th tier. Now, Limerick, on their first inaugural year in the Masters, won the Spirit Cup. They were beaten in the semi-final of the Spirit Cup in year 2, which would be 24. They won it in 23. In year 25, 2025, they found themselves in the Challenge Cup final, where they lost narrowly to London. And now we have moved up to the Plate, which would be the equivalent to Division 3. And it gives you an idea of the trajectory of Limerick Masters football, which is very, very good progress, Tom. And now they're facing Tyrone. Tyrone, who have won the Mick Loftus Cup 5 years in a row, but have hit bad times this year, or, lost a couple of games along the way, lost to Cavan, lost to Dublin. They beat Armagh, they beat Galway in a playoff. They won, beat Antrim. They did enough anyway to get into a playoff for a semi-final place, which they had a comfortable win over Galway. So Limerick will take on Tyrone now next Saturday at 2:00 in the Athlone GAA grounds, County Westmeath.
Halfway house, so yeah, it's the halfway house. So look, we're wishing the lads the best.
Limerick have a decent record, Tom. They beat Cork in the first round in Botheville, drew with Waterford in round 2, beat Clare in round 3, lost to Kerry in round 4, beat Westmeath in round 5, and lost to Roscommon in round 6. The last, Limerick had only 2 home games, actually, Tom. They had only 2 home games during it. All the rest were away from home now. How this has been decided, I don't know. I have a hang up about home and away and the way it should be, but that's what it was. We had home games against, let me think now, with home games against Waterford. Waterford and Clare. With Clare and Rebogue, with Waterford and Pallasgreen.
Yeah, that's it. But look, anyway, we won't get hung up on that. Hopefully, another day out for the lads.
Hopefully, another day out for the lads. They deserve it. Like they've been playing very well. They've put an awful lot into it during the course of the year, and like they deserve, what they get out of it. They certainly will deserve it. And Tom, I believe that they're in with a right chance. I believe that they're in with a right chance. Like when we hear about Tyrone, we throw our hands in the air. Shouldn't it? All a matter about it. But it isn't all a matter about it.
No.
I honestly think we're there with a chance. No, Tyrone will be hot favourites. Make no mistake about that. Yeah. But we're not travelling to Athlone for the good of our health or to make up numbers.
No, for sure. So best of luck
to the right good shot.
Yeah, best of luck to the lads at the weekend. So 2 p.m. start in Athlone GAA grounds. We'll bring you the latest next week for that one. Matt, we should move from M for Masters for M for Martina, who is a master of her own craft. Just to mention her 6th national wall ball title on Sunday, probably in Croke Park, was it, against Eilish?
No, actually it was in Galway, Tom.
In Galway, was it? Okay. Yeah. Defeating Eilish McCrory in the final. Yeah. So a 6th time with the wall ball, and I know she explained this before, the different nuances, but it's nearly bi-weekly now. We have something to update about Martina's progress.
Absolutely. She's congratulations to Martina again. She's just absolutely, she's the sports superstar. She's handball superstar, Tom, no question about it. And like that's 3 major titles that we can account for this year. One of them which she won for the 7th time, another which she won for the 6th time, and the doubles title which she retained. Now I'm not sure whether she has won it before winning back-to-back titles.
At least twice. Yeah, there's a good shot she has.
I would take a good shot that she had, But she's just absolutely, simply fantastic. Like, and the day we had her on here, Tom, on Treaty Talk, like when she outlined the dreadful injury that she suffered. And to think that she came back from that and recaptured the level of performance that she is performing. She's absolutely wonderful. Absolutely. What a great ambassador for Limerick sport.
Yeah, for sure. So congrats to Martina on another title. Matt, the Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship, I suppose the rescheduled game, took place last Monday evening. The lights weren't on in Knocklang. They probably needed to be by the finish, but they got there. I
thought you'd never come to it, Tom.
A thriller. Glenroe 4-16, Granabellangary 3-18. A point in it in the end. It was 4 goals in the space of I think maybe 6.5 minutes. It traded blow for blow nearly. 5 goals in all in the second half. It was a thriller, Matt. It's a shame that you weren't there beside me to see it, but you may have struggled to hold on to your hat celebrating. But a big win for Glenroe. They're on the mark.
Huge win, Tom. Of course, they badly needed it. Like they played Drummond and Clack in the first round, and they played Blackrock in the second round. And whilst they were very, very competitive in both games, but I've been saying, like Tom, that Glenroe are a team waiting to make a breakthrough. They have so many young players. I think, Tom, I was discussing with somebody today. I think they have five players 19 or under. on that starting team the other night, which is absolutely phenomenal,
Yeah.
And it was a huge win to get. Now they had a very, very close game with Granaballangary last year. There was only 2 points in it. It was a late goal that decided it. And of course, they go back a good bit with Granaballangary, Tom. One of the best county finals I think I've seen in my lifetime was in 2005 when they met in the intermediate final in Kilmallock. It was Glenroe were 10 points down at one stage, came back to lead, and Granaballangary just edged it out in the end. So, there is a bit of history and a very good history between the clubs. But thankfully, the result fell on Glenroe's side this time. So, it's only 2 points, Tom. There are 4 games left against Maru, Bruff, Effin, and
Kilfinny.
Kilfinny, yeah. Not
Yeah.
necessarily in that order, but they have Maru Boher up next, who are unbeaten. And it's a free shot when they're unbeaten. You can give it your best shot and see where it takes you.
Yeah, for sure. And a shout out as well to Darren Fruin, who top scored with 2-5, but also Adam Fruin as well. On a difficult few weeks, he chipped in with 3 points. I think he set up a couple of the goals as well, but very impressive performance from him. And indeed, not forgetting the 2 Denny's, Cahill with 1-4 and Liam with 1-1 as well. So there's the younger cohort you're talking about, Matt.
That's the younger cohort now coming through. You're 3-12 from the full forward line, which was in itself was fantastic,
Yeah, that could be enough to win some games, in fairness to them. But like Luke Flynn, Sean O'Connor, David Condren, Paddy Murphy, their scores just not enough for Granaballangary on this occasion, who have the same record now, 1 win and 2 defeats. But we'll come back to Premier Intermediate in next week's show with a full round of games pencils in for next week. Matt, the underage Limerick teams were all in action really at the weekend at the academy, and we have Tony Forristal Glory, something we were never able to say on Treaty Talk before because it's the first time.
No, and it's the first time since 2002. It's 24 years since we won the Tom Forristal Cup. But a little bit of background to the Tony Forristal Cup. My apologies.
Yeah.
It wasn't just last Saturday that the Tony Forristal Cup was going on, Tom. There were 18 teams started out in the Tony Forristal tournament, and they have been playing group games and for over 3 weeks, over 3 different weekends, leading up to the Tony Forristal weekend in Waterford. And Limerick had 3 teams, Tom, in it. Now, right from the outset, 6 teams, the top 6 teams were to qualify for the Tony Forristal, and teams from 7 to 18 were to go into the Sonny Walsh tournament, which is, and
second, yeah.
Unbelievable, Tom. And I suppose, it's indicative of where we're at and indicative of the work that is going on in the academy, that the 3 Limerick teams finished in the top 6.
Yeah,
Simply phenomenal. Like that, half of the teams competing in the top 6 in the Forristal Cup were from Limerick. Lumnock, Limerick Green, Limerick White. Now, Limerick Green and Lumnock qualified for the final, beat Waterford 2-10 to 1-6 in the final to bring the Forristal Cup back to Limerick, captained by Rhys O'Riordan from Maru Boher. A team managed by Emmett Benson from Beershik, who was in charge of all 3 teams. And now we're hearing, and it's definite like that apparently Limerick Green thought they were in the final. The final was underway between Lumnock and Limerick Green when it was stopped. That it was something about scoring difference or head-to-head, and Waterford replaced them in the final, which is, it's very, very disappointing that should happen. And my heart goes out to particularly the young lads, the players. And we've got to think of these young guys and their parents and those that are connected with them. When you set out to play a final and the next thing you're whistled up and brought in and another team put in top of you. But like the authorities, those that are responsible for the organisation, they must take full culpability for that, Tom. because
bit of a mess at least.
We've had a similar discussion earlier on this year, Tom, if you will recall, in terms of the Challenge Cup and a certain grey area and a certain ambiguity there about the rules and qualifying rules. And the same applies to the Tony Forristal, because the Tony Forristal Cup, the Tony Forristal tournament, is the most prestigious one on the calendar for under 14 hurlers. And any under 14 hurler worth his salt is gearing up for the Tony Forristal. So, like, it is very, very important that the rules are clearly defined in these circumstances. Now, I don't know who would have won it if Limerick Green was in it. I don't know.
Well, Limerick would have won it.
Well, yeah, there you. Fair conclusion, Tom. You're going well today now.
Yeah.
I have to be careful what I say for the rest of the cast because you're on song.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying. Yeah, but
let it be whatever it was. But we shouldn't have had a situation like that. It's most disappointing, and I would appeal to whether they're local organisers, whether they're national organisers, because like these tournaments were on all over the place. They were on in Tipperary, they were on in Kilkenny, they were on in Abbottstown, they were on everywhere for different grades, different levels.
Yeah.
We must have clearly defined rules of qualification.
For sure.
And it's the same with the Celtic Challenge.
Yeah, no, that's true, but it doesn't take away. I don't think it takes away anyway from Limerick's success, albeit.
No, not at all. Not for a minute. Yeah. It's absolute congratulations to everybody. Another piece of silverware on the Limerick sideboard. It's beginning to topple over now with the weight of it, but we'll take anything that's going. But there are a couple of landmarks this year. Minors bridge a 42-year gap. Under 14s bridge a 24-year gap.
Yeah. The seniors bridge a 3-year gap as well, Matt, to be fair. So
yeah, which is a lifetime now.
Yeah, that's it. And they bridged a 2-year gap from
but Tom, it gives you an idea of the work and structure of the academy. That they can organise and pick up 3 teams in our county, and the 3 of them qualify for the top 6. It's just simply phenomenal. But probably, Tom, it's a byproduct, and it's something that you would probably partly expect anyway, from the level of success that the Limerick senior hurling team have.
Yeah, I didn't I say it? Was it on the podcast with who did we have on? I'm trying to remember. Oh no, sorry. When I met Kieran Kerr, I don't know. Did you see that chat? I asked him, are we only starting to now see the ripple effect of 2018? Because, if you were a 6-year-old in 2018, you're under 14 now or thereabouts, and what greater impression could you leave on a 6-year-old or 7-year-old about the game of hurling than watching his own county win and all that goes with it? Because let's face it, like there was many generations who didn't have that, I suppose, visible inspiration, albeit there would have been natural inspiration, but just the breadth that the 2018 win will give to the county in terms of people wanting to play the sport and wanting to get on that green jersey.
I agree with you, and I think the minor success this year, Tom, is a byproduct of it as well.
Yeah. Again, those lads were only 9 or 10.
Were 9 years ago, 9 years of age in 2018. Very, very impressionable, and young fellas saying to themselves, "Gee, I want a slice of that,"
Yeah, it's fantastic. But congratulations to the management team, and the one, I suppose, downplay I would say is, look, there's no guarantee that any of these lads will progress. There still is an awful lot of work to be done, but it is great to see that there's a bit of fruit already to the labour that goes in, from even the commitment from parents at this age in particular, bringing them all around the county and all around the country training. But it let's see them develop a little bit further now before there's any major pressure applied, shall we say.
But the Tony Forristal shouldn't be allowed to overshadow very good performances at under 15 level as well, in the Arabon and in the John Doyle Shield. And you had the under 16s who were in Kilworth, and they lost after extra time to a very, very good Galway team, and didn't beat Cork in the 3rd place playoff. So, like, it was overall, it was a very, very good weekend, and like, in my opinion, it's testimony that the academy at present is in a rude state of good health, Tom.
Yeah, that's it. I think what we want with the academy is to be competitive and let the results then come thereafter. But being competitive is the first flag you want planted. But as I said, congratulations to all and well done as well to the other teams on, I suppose, a good innings and a good season of commitment for the green jersey. Matt, just to move conversation towards ladies football, and we had the second round of action in the books at the weekend again. Teams vying now, trying to push themselves into home quarterfinals across the grades. And who are the movers?
Well, Tom, in Group 1, like the standout performance of the weekend in the Senior Football Championship came last Thursday night, when we had the battle of the 2025 champions. Father Casey's the intermediate champions, and St. Ailbe's the senior champions, and Father Casey's won at 3-8 to 9 points. It was a huge success for Father Casey's. They've played 2 games since coming up senior, 2 championship games, and they now have 3 points. Like as we know, as I explained, that we have 2 groups of 4. They play off on a round robin basis. All 4 in each group go through to the quarterfinals, with the team finishing 1 playing 4 and vice versa. But the only slight bit of jeopardy that's in there, Tom, is that the top 2 teams in each group get a home quarterfinal. And Father Casey's are a long way there now towards it. But equally, Ballylanders, Tom, in the same group, who struggled to avoid relegation last year and only avoided it when they beat Ula in the relegation playoff final. They went to Tullylease on Tuesday evening and had a very good win over Drumbradford, which means that it's a 3-way battle at the top of the table between Father Casey's and Ballylanders, both on 3 points, and St. Ailbe's on 2 points. 2 of those teams are going to get home quarterfinals.
Right.
Now, Drum will have to travel, because Drum, after the heroics of last year, and I spoke about this when we were talking about the ladies' football already. They were only knocked out in the semi-final last year by Freeze.
Yeah, that's how close they were.
They have found a tough start to this campaign, in that they've lost both games away to St. Ailbe's, and I suppose away, if you say, to Ladies, to Ballylanders. But all this has coincided with Niamh McCarthy's wedding, which is who is a huge player with him, and I honestly think I wouldn't write Drumbradford out of the script yet. They may have to travel in their quarterfinal, but Tom, I think now in the last game they play Father Casey's, and I think they have to travel to Abbeyfield to play them, and Ballylanders will entertain St. Ailbe's. So the only thing that's immovable is that Drum will have to travel for the quarterfinal. There's a 3-way battle for the 2 home quarterfinals on the other side.
The other group.
Across to Group 2, we have Monagea sitting on 2 wins.
Yeah, got the better of Castlemahan by 3 points, didn't they, last weekend?
Sorry?
They got the better of Castlemahan, I'm saying, by 3 points at the weekend.
Yeah, and they got the better of Mungret in the first round.
Yeah, so they're well placed before the final round against Old Mill. So
now,
second
Old
spot
Mill has 3 points. In that, Fiona Castlemahan have suffered 2 defeats. So Fiona Castlemahan are similar now to Drumbradford, and Fiona Castlemahan will definitely have to travel in the quarterfinal. You had Old Mill now are on 3 points. They beat Fiona Castlemahan in the first round, and they drew with Mungret last weekend. So they're on 3 points. Monagea are on 4 points, and you have Mungret St. Paul's on 1 point. Now, this weekend's fixtures see Monagea play Old Mill, and Mungret play Fiona Castlemahan. So it's going to be very, very interesting. The one thing that we can say for certain is that Monagea are in as they have a home quarter final.
Yeah, 4 points. Yeah, Munger
If
can't catch
Old
them.
Mill can overturn Monaghan, they'll get a home quarter final as well.
Yeah, that'll be the
Not
1-2 then.
depending on the result between Munger at St. Paul's and Fiona Castleman.
Yeah, that's it. So look,
because but if it comes to head, they have a head over Fiona Castleman, but they've had a draw with Munger, so scoring difference could come into it.
yeah, that's it. I think Munger so under a bit of pressure considering they lost was it by 7 or 8 points and they did to Monaghan. So
They did in the opening round.
So that kind of they'll have a bit of work to do.
They lost that game at home.
Yeah, and the final round anyway to come against Castleman. Matt, just to mention the results in the intermediate, Knockany had a 4-point victory over St. Bridget's. They're near neighbours. Galty Gales got the better of Maru Boher 3-13 to 1-7. There was a 2-point win for Monaleen over St. Senans, and Adair edged it against Ula 2-7 to 1-9. But again, similar in terms of
big surprise, Tom, because Ula have been just relegated, had a huge win over Monaleen in the first round, and looked as if they were poised to come back straight back up. They've 3 or 4 of the Limerick team, including Shona Hickey, Eddie Crow, and Captain Bradshaw. That would be a disappointing result. But from this remove, Knockany and Galty Gales are both unbeaten. Now, they met in the semi-final last year over in Knocklang when Knockany won it. Now, you must remember Galty Gales were actually playing senior in 2024. They got promoted as intermediate champions in 2023, played senior in 2024, won their first game in 2024 against Old Mill. But it'll tell you the jeopardy that's in the competition that a win. In some competitions, if you get a first round win, you're nearly halfway there. That is not so in the structure of ladies football, and they were subsequently relegated. And dreams of coming straight back up were dashed when they lost to Knockany in the semi-final in Knocklang, and Knockany in turn lost to Father Casey's in the final. Those two seem to be heading again, Tom, for making it to the
home quarterfinals.
The concluding stage. I don't want to preempt anything, but they're certainly going to be involved when the shakeout.
They'll be hard to beat.
Of trophies come. Those two are definitely going to be there.
Yeah.
St. Bridget's had a very good league, Tom. Had a very good spring and into the summer. And they've suffered 2 defeats now, which is a bit surprising now. It's a bit surprising. They've lost.
Trying to time it right. You wouldn't know though this time of year, holidays and everything else. It could be given a difficulty there. But look, they're still in with a chance, of course, as we know. So it's all about the knockout football really when it comes to it, isn't it? So
it's all about the real business starts in a couple of weeks' time when they face off in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, Matt, the
quarterfinals, Tom, the 4 quarterfinals will be played. The 4 winners will go through to the A Championship semi-finals. The 4 losers go through to the B Championship semi-finals.
Yeah, that's it.
But there's a lot of football to be played yet.
There is indeed. Before the match I'm about to ref is abandoned for me not showing up, we'll move to Camogie. I know the clock is coming against me. Camogie, round 2 action at the weekend.
Yeah, round 2 is the big one, I suppose, is Newcastle West, the champions. They're facing Patrickswell in Group 1, I think. And the game, it was meant to be a home game for Patrickswell, but Patrickswell's pitch is under refurbishment at the moment, so the game is moved to Croom. Now, these teams had contrasting results in the first round. Newcastle West had a good win over Killeedy, their neighbours, 12 points to 3 in the first round. But a bit of a surprise, Tom, and I suppose, was it a surprise, really? Since they won the Intermediate Championship last year, Patrickswell have had a great run. They were promoted senior, of course, and they won the Munster Junior Clubs Championship. And Tom, they settled into life as a senior club here in Limerick very, very nicely. Thank you. winning the Division 1 of the league. So they would have gone to Monaleen in the opening round. Now, Monaleen were last year's runners-up. They went to Monaleen, I'd say, with a certain expectation, that they may get off to a winning start, but it didn't happen. Monaleen came up with the goods and won the game, and Patrickswell will be up against it in Croom, Tom. The game is on Saturday evening, I think, or sorry, is it Friday evening?
Yeah, I actually can't see these fixtures anywhere, Matt. I'm afraid I haven't seen them published anywhere, so I'm a bit in the dark on it.
And so they will be under pressure, and defeat for Patrickswell will see him going into the B Championship. Now, the same evening, Killeedy entertain Monaleen. Now that will be an interesting game. Can Killeedy bounce back from the defeat against Newcastle West? If they do, they're back in the mix. But if not, if Monaleen and Newcastle win, Tom, they're both into the A semi-finals, and Killeedy and Patrickswell are in the B semi-finals. It's quite clear on Group 1. Group 2 now is not as clear cut, for the simple reason that Adair and Bruff drew in the first round.
Yeah.
Now Adair travelled to a Han at the weekend, and they travelled to a Han team who suffered. Tom, it was 9 points. I think it was a bit of a surprise defeat to Croke Kilfinny. Because Croke Kilfinny were intermediate champions in 2024, and they struggled last year, but they survived. But they got off to a great start when they went to a Han and won. Now it puts a Han in a position that they have to beat Adair if they're to stay in the running for the A Championship. And that's not going to be easy. Cueva Costello is back, is in good form. Sophie O'Callaghan is in very, very good form. So it was actually when Bruff had a run on Adair until Sophie O'Callaghan was brought to midfield, and she had a simply magnificent game there and turned it around. So that's going to be a very, very tight one. But I think, having seen Adair in the last round, I kind of fancy him, Tom, to do it. Now, Bruff travelled to Croke Kilfinny, and that will be a very, very interesting game now, because you'll have two of the real upcoming stars of Limerick Camogie on opposite sides. You'll have Donna Kenny with Croke Kilfinny, and you'll have Aoibhinn O'Connor, who will be eligible for adult Camogie next year. She was minor this year, so she couldn't play adult, but she can play club, but she can't play county.
Okay,
But the two of those will be in opposite corners. Bruff are a very, very hard side to break down, Tom. Mary O'Callaghan is the captain. She's a former Limerick player. She's playing extremely, extremely well. And they have leaders around the field. Tara Hines, another Limerick minor, Abigail Buckley. They've some very, very good players. I have a fancy, Tom, for Adair and Bruff to win in their second games. And it will be nearly enough to take him through to them.
Yeah, you'd imagine it would if that's the case. It'll be very close to it anyway.
But Croke Kilfinny in Croke, Orlett Kelleher is there as well, who is coming off after a great year with Limerick. Orlett Kelleher at midfield for Limerick, mainstay there for the year. It'll be very, very interesting, Tom.
Yeah, for sure. Matt, anything else on your agenda there? I think we've covered so much in the last 80 odd minutes or so.
No.
Anything else?
No.
Nothing else.
Nothing else.
Fair play, Matt. You've it all covered in terms of Camogie and ladies football as well as ever. Folks, thanks for tuning in to us this week. A reminder, the streamed games this weekend, one of them about to throw in shortly as we record. The other one is Thursday evening, second of the minor Premier Hurling Championship semi-finals. We'll be bringing you the final of that as well in next week. On top of that, we have the Irish Wire Products Limerick Senior Football Championship clash between Mungret St. Paul's and Kildare and Panaskenry. So potential big game there in terms of deciding who's in and who's out of the Senior Football Championship knockout stages. But for from myself, Tom, and from Matt. Thanks for tuning in to Treaty Talk. We will